Hello everyone. Welcome to Delicious and Nutritious. We are sponsored by PAC TV, the Center for Active Living, and also Healthy Plymouth. And today what we're going to do is we're going to do something oriental. And we are going to do a pork loin. Pork loin is the fillet of the pork. And just like the fillet of a cow, the filet mignon. This is a really nice, tender piece of meat, but the flavor is very mild. So what I have done is I've marinated it. Okay, I have marinated it, and it's been sitting in the marinade for about an hour, and I've just drained the marinade off of it. So the marinade consists of fresh ginger, which I have peeled, and I've used a microplane, and the microplane is used to make very small pieces of ginger. But you have to be careful because this will also shave your fingers if you're not careful with it. There is also a mixture of soy sauce and rice wine vinegar. Why rice wine vinegar? In the past, we've talked about different types of vinegar. Rice wine vinegar is a very mild vinegar. So the vinegar is going to help tenderize it, but it's also going to draw in flavors. Now, the pork loin is shaped about like this here. What you want to do with the pork loin when you're prepping the pork loin is you want to take off all the fat, and then on portions of the pork loin, there is something called gray skin. And what you'd like to do is take a really good sharp boning knife and slowly just remove that. And you get a little piece of it started, and you get yourself a paper towel, and then you kind of just rip it right off. And you can do the same thing if you're cooking baby back ribs or Louisiana-style ribs, and you just start the skin coming off and just pull, and off it goes. So the second thing that we're going to do, and we've already cooked this is basmati rice. It's called an aromatic rice, and it's a long grain rice, and it's very delicious. This was cooked with a little bit of soy sauce, and we also took some slivered almonds, and if you look at the slivered almonds, they're not white like we normally see them because they were sauteed in a dry saute pan. And that gives it a nice little smoky toastiness to it. So that's what's in there. Plus, the ratio that we used was 1 cup of rice. In this case, because I wanted more, there were 2 cups of rice, and we double that number, the 2, double it, so it's 4, and that's 4 cups of either chicken broth, low sodium of course, and it is also, or we can use water. Now, what we have, and that, I used a rice maker, and I like to use a rice maker, and the reason being is that I put it all together and I start doing other things, and the other things allow me to not look at the rice maker, and the rice maker goes click, and I look at the button, and the button says it's done. Take it off. You don't have to stir it. You don't have to do anything. Take it off. Let it sit on the counter for.
How long does it take when you're cooking rice in a rice maker?
Okay, we have a question, and the answer to the question is it takes for 1 cup of rice and 2 cups of water about 12 to 13 minutes, and it all depends upon the rice maker that you happen to have. Rice makers are inexpensive. You can cook brown rice, you can cook white rice, you can cook Italian rice, you can make risotto out of it, and it's just nice and easy. Just load it up, press the button, and it does its thing. The one that I have is probably 15 years old, and it's made, it came out of the Orient. Okay, so, and what we're going to do right now is we're going to use a wok. And this is a heavy-duty wok, which I like because I like to use a high temperature. So we're jacking up the heat right now. We're putting the wok in place. What we need to have is a little bit of canola oil. Why am I using canola oil? Good question. The reason why we're using canola oil is because it has little or no flavor. It's a neutral oil. I could use peanut, but I don't want it to taste like peanut. I could use olive oil, but the temperature range on the olive oil is very low. And it also, I want this to taste like Oriental food, not like an Italian meal. So we're going to put in about 2 tablespoons of.
We have a question.
We have a question. I'd like to answer a question.
Chef, if I don't have a wok, if I don't own a wok, will a fry pan work just as well?
Repeat the question.
Okay. The question was, if I don't have a wok, would a fry pan work just as well? An electric fry pan will not work well. What you really want to do is a large saute pan or a frying pan, because you can get more heat into the pan, and it will work a lot better. So, okay? All right. We are now heating our oil. And you'll notice how I'm swirling it around. And the shape is the shape of a wok. These are new wok shapes because it has no rounded bottom to it. But you couldn't use a rounded bottom on a stove like this. So what we have is we're waiting until we see the shimmer. And the shimmer of the oil tells us that we've got enough heat. We don't want to see any smoke because it's going to have a burnt flavor to it. So
How do you know it shimmers?
how do I know it's shimmered? Okay, if you look at the surface of water that is just laying there, and it's smooth, when the shimmer has little tiny waves on it, that is what I mean by a shimmer. It's a food term. So now, how do we know it's hot enough? So we're looking at the shimmer. We're getting a shimmer, and I am seeing bubbles when I put in some onion, and the onion is going in with the garlic, and we're going to cook this for about 2 minutes. But what's really important is watch how I am stirring this. I'm constantly keeping it moving, and the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want it to burn. And I've got this stove on as high as it will go. And the only way you can do that is by constantly stirring it. So this little device here is used, it's designed specifically for use in a wok. But you want to remember, you can't use this if you happen to have a wok that has plastic in it. Yes, question.
I noticed that you're cooking your onions first, and I'm assuming you're going to cook your vegetables first. Why are you doing the vegetables before the meat?
Okay, why am I doing what I'm really doing is I'm going to do the onions and the garlic, then I'm going to put the meat in, cook the meat for about 3 to 4 minutes, then I'm going to add the vegetables. We have here lovely snow peas, broccoli florets, and a little bit of red pepper. And why are we using different colors and so forth? Because we want it to look attractive. And that's what this is all about. So give me a minute to stir here, and we're stirring. And if we had smell-o-vision here, these onions smell delicious. But we're rolling along here. Now, I'm getting a little bit of browning here, and that's what I want. I don't want black because it'll get bitter. So, next thing, we put the red stuff in here. These are sweet red bell peppers that are cut up to about a ½ inch by a quarter of an inch or something like that. This is not rocket science here, and we're not building an atomic bomb, so it doesn't make any difference whether we have the sizes are perfect. Actually, I kind of like to see them when they're a little bit irregular. Now, we're going to cook this for about a minute or so. And why didn't I put the red peppers in at the same time that I put the onions in? Because the red bell peppers take less time to cook. That's the reason for doing that. So it's all in, what we're trying to do is to get these things all cooked at the same time, so they all have the right degree of tenderness. Now, we're getting ready to put the meat in. And the meat goes in. Nice. We'll put that over there. Smell is delicious. And we keep moving things around. The onions have a nice little brownness to them. I'm starting to smell the garlic. The meat has been marinated with ginger and soy sauce, as well as, if you recall, rice wine. And we're just moving it around a little bit and keeping it going. And if we had a restaurant-style stove, we would have more heat in this thing. So, but this is fine. Now, I'd like to hear a few nutrition questions, such as, what is this a good source of? And what type of nutritional value do we have here? And so the question is it's a good source of a number of things. And I'm going to take my little cheat sheet here and look at them. So it's an excellent source of vitamin A and C, thiamine, riboflavin, and niacin. These nutrients support energy, metabolism, vision, skin, and gives you a healthy glow and a nice skin. And the purpose of what we're trying to do here is we want it to look good, we want it to smell good, we want it to taste good, but we want it to be nutritionally sound. We want it to say, you want to eat something that you feel is actually healthy for you.
Jeff, I have a question.
Please.
From a nutritional point of view, how do you rate pork as opposed to chicken or as opposed to beef?
Okay. The question is how do you rate pork as it relates to other animal proteins such as beef and chicken? And you might have asked, and seafood. Okay, and it's a very good question. The pork industry at one time was calling pork the other white meat because it's relatively low in fat, depending upon which piece you happen to have, and the saturated fat levels are not as great as a piece of beef, and it's pretty healthy. And can it be used as a substitute? What can be used to substitute for pork if you want? Well, in this dish here, we're using pork, and the pork gives it a nice little neutral flavor to it. But if we wanted to, and you didn't want to eat pork, you could take chicken breast, skinless, boneless chicken breast, chop it up to the same size, do the same type of a marinade. Remember, the marinade really is giving the flavor to the pork, and also chicken breast, which is very mild. It's all the white meat, and it makes a really very nice flavor. So we're getting there right now. Now, we are going to add the vegetables. And the vegetables have now gone in there, and we're getting a nice bubbling sound. So that goes in there nicely. And in order to cook vegetables, we need to add some liquid. So we have low sodium chicken broth, and we're going to put in 1 cup of low sodium chicken broth. So that goes in there, and now we're going to get it to bubble in a few minutes. And the question comes in, what do I have in here? I have in here a mixture of cornstarch and low sodium chicken broth. What am I going to use that for? It's a thickening agent. Okay, how do you use this thing? First off, cornstarch has to be, the liquid that you add to cornstarch has to be at room temperature. If it is hot, the first thing that will happen, you will get lumps and bumps, and it won't thicken. You'll have this mass of coagulated cornstarch. That's not what you want. So I made up my cornstarch chicken broth solution a while ago, and it settled out on me, which I knew it was going to do. So I have my handy little whisk, and I'm going to whisk a little bit. And am I going to add it right now? No, but I wanted to talk about it while the heat came up on the stove. And we are waiting to get a little bit more heat into this. This is going to go in at the very end. And the reason why it's going in at the very end is because I want to make sure everything is cooked because once I add this, it really doesn't work if I put it back on the stove, because the cornstarch will burn. So I like to add cornstarch at the very end, and I will take the wok off the stove, and then I'll add the cornstarch, and I'll stir it really well, and I will then plate it. Yes.
So for those of us who might have a smaller stove at home,
Yes.
the time to prepare this meal will just take a little longer, because we're not going to cover it at home or do anything to encourage it to boil faster.
You could there are wok covers, and you could use that. And if you happen to, the problem with that is that I like to look at what I'm cooking, because I'm very concerned about how it looks and how it tastes, and I don't want to overcook it. I don't want to burn it. I don't want to undercook it. And I can tell by looking at these vegetables right now that these vegetables are without a doubt undercooked. But I'm starting to get some bubbling from the liquid, and I'm just going to, oh, there we go. We got a little steam. Steam's a good thing. So we are now cooking here. And we're starting to get a little steam here, and that looks good. Any more questions?
Could you substitute different vegetables? What if you didn't like broccoli? Are there other vegetables that we could use in this particular recipe?
You can substitute anything you want. And well, let's go on to tips for the day. The tips for the day are the most important thing while you are cooking. You always have a spoon nearby, and that spoon is used to taste and adjust. Okay, you can use any vegetable that you want, all right? I would start off, when you start making Oriental food, I would start off using some type of vegetable which is commonly used with Oriental food. But there are other things that would work very well also. And if you look at the difference between Oriental and Indian food, the Indian food tends to have more starches, potatoes, things of that type. You can do that with this. The flavor profile that you are getting is from the soy sauce and the rice wine vinegar and the ginger, okay? And the other flavor source is going to be the aromatic rice, the basmati rice. Aromatic because it has flavor to it, and it has a nice smell to it. And I can hear this thing bubbling away here, so we'll just give it another stir.
Chef, I have a question.
Please, go ahead. Another question.
If you're not crazy about rice or you wanted a substitute for rice,
Yes.
would you recommend something like Oriental noodles, or what would be some other things for your options?
Okay. The only reason why I'm using, the question was if you don't happen to like rice, or you've had enough rice for the week and you want to try something else. You can, and you don't have to have a starch. I mean, you could eat this just the way it is. Fine, that's one answer. The other answer is this can be plated on anything that you want. You could put it on some orzo that looks like rice, but it's actually pasta. You could put it on I would recommend a small pasta. And I would not put it on spaghetti or bucatini or anything like that. But you can put it on orchetta, and there's a number of things you can put it on. Israeli couscous, the one with the big beads, or the Moroccan-style couscous, it would work like that also. Other vegetables that work really well in here is soybeans, commonly called edamame. They're available. The other thing is you can put in mushrooms, and you can basically put in anything you want. Be creative. That's what this is all about. And you will know if you made a mistake. And if you never make a mistake, you haven't tried hard enough. And I'm a firm believer in that. So try things. It's really, and that's what this is all about. Because you may come up with something wonderful. But if you're cooking for a bunch of your friends and you want to make a nice impression on them, please taste the food before you give it to them. All right? Because, and then if it's a little bit off and not quite the way you want, don't tell them because they won't know anyway. So That's what it is all about. How much?
7 minutes.
Good. Okay. What we're going to do right now is we have gotten to the point of we're going to do a little taste. Oh, that's good. Boy, do I get good results. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we stir our cornstarch solution. And remembering what I said, take it off the heat. So we'll take it off the heat. We'll put it over here on this side. And we are going to make sure that it is stirred really well. And we have it stirred really well. We're going to start to spread it around in there. And we're going to start thickening. And we are thickening now. Okay. Now, I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Is there something you could substitute for cornstarch if you just didn't have it in the house?
You know, the interesting thing about it is that most people that do any kind of cooking, the most common thickener is cornstarch. But you can use tapioca, and there's a whole pile of other things. The common thing is cornstarch because it's an American thing. And it's also, the Orientals will use it also. But any, what's that?
Would flour and water work?
Flour and water will work. The problem with flour and water is that sometimes you will get more lumps in it. But the key really is to whatever you're using as a thickening agent, add the cold liquid to it and then really stir it up. Okay, so now we are there, and we're going to start doing some plating. So we got a nice looking plate.
Do you want to turn off the stove?
That's fine. Okay, now here's our rice, and we're going to put our rice on the serving platter, and we're actually going to fluff it a little bit as we put it down. And there we are. And you notice the little brown stuff in here? Those are our toasted almonds. And we're going to lay this out some more. And we keep moving along. And so what is important is that we want it to look nice. So there we go. Okay. Now, we bring our pan over here, and we're going to start plating. And we're going to plate a little bit more. Now look at the color. We've got really vibrant greens. Now, why are the greens so vibrant? They're vibrant because they pop out, they look good. And the reason being is because I haven't overcooked them. And I haven't cooked them in a huge amount of liquid. So now we have plated. And there we are. And that looks lovely. Now, if we're Oriental, then what we want to do is we want to eat with our rice bowl, and we want to use chopsticks. And interesting thing is when a child is very young, and they're in the Orient, they're taught to eat with one chopstick, holding it like this, and they pick the bowl up and they just kind of shovel it into their mouth. As you become a little bit older and supposedly more sophisticated, you learn how to use the chopsticks so they open and they close, and you can pick something up like this. Okay, so because supposedly I'm older and I might have some degree of sophistication, I'm going to plate myself a bowl, and there we go. Oh, Look at that red stuff.
Would you recommend a particular wine to go with this dinner?
That's a really interesting idea. Okay. The question is would I recommend a particular wine? I would recommend a white wine that is relatively mild, but I would actually recommend a beer. And I would prefer to have beer. I like the effervescence, I like the flavor. Find something that goes with what you have here. So, let's taste. Oh, that's good. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming to our show. And if you have any questions, please contact either PAC TV or the Senior Center in Plymouth. And we're good, and we enjoyed having you. Take care. See you next time. Delicious and nutritious. Bye.